there's this very specific, almost visceral kind of dread that kicks in. It's like 7:00 p.m. on a Friday. You're dressed, you look good, you've checked your teeth in the mirror, what, 3 times? You've got the reservation?
Right.
But there is this pit in your stomach because, inevitably you're about to walk into a room with a stranger and just run out of things to say.
A universal fear. The dead air. It is, it's the stuff of nightmares, really.
It's even worse than dead air. It's that default mode we all slip into when the panic hits. You sit down, adrenaline's pumping, and then you just hear yourself asking, so, how many siblings do you have?
Ah, yes. The dreaded interview mode.
And you just want to punch yourself in the face.
It's the absolute death knell of romance. You're basically asking for a resume instead of, a connection.
Exactly. It feels like a deposition, not a date. It's dry, it's factual, and it is painfully boring.
Yeah.
So today we are tackling this head on. We are doing a deep dive into a source that is honestly a little unusual for us, but the insights are just gold.
I love this source.
It's called the Midnight English Guide, Episode 3, The First Date Protocol.
Yeah, and on the surface, it's a language learning guide. It's designed for, intermediate English speakers, people at a B1 or B2 level to help them sound more natural.
Right.
But if you scratch that surface, it's really a masterclass in behavioral psychology. It's about human dynamics, not just vocabulary.
That is what hooked me. The advice isn't just how to speak English correctly, it's how not to be boring. The stated mission of the text is to move the interaction from awkward silence to electric tension. And I don't care if you're learning English or if you're Shakespeare, everybody wants that.
Absolutely. And the way they frame it is fascinating. They use 2 main concepts, the chunking method and emotional spiking.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. Chunking. To me, that sounds like something you do with a pumpkin or maybe a weightlifting term. What does that mean here?
So in linguistics, a chunk is just a set phrase. It's a collection of words you learn as a single unit. So instead of piecing together, I will like a coffee.
You just learn the whole chunk, I'd like a coffee.
Exactly, it's automatic.
Right.
But in this dating guide, these chunks are more like psychological triggers. They're preloaded lines designed to shift the power dynamic or the emotional vibe of the date instantly.
So there's like a cheat code. You don't have to think, you just deploy the chunk.
Precisely. It frees up your brain to focus on the person, on the energy, instead of stressing over what to say next to fill the void.
I love that. Okay, I want to walk through this chronologically, just like the guide does. It breaks the date into phases, and phase 1 is escaping the interview.
Right.
And it turns out the biggest mistake happens before you even open your mouth. It's all about where you sit.
Yes. The dinner table trap, as the source calls it.
Which I found surprising because dinner is the classic date. Candlelight, tablecloths.
Yeah.
Why is that a trap?
Well, it feels classic, but think about the geometry of it. In a standard dinner, you are sitting face to face. There is a physical barrier, the table between you. You are locked in direct eye contact. In body language analysis, this is actually an adversarial setup.
Adversarial.
Yeah, it's the position of a negotiation, a confrontation, or, well, an interview.
That makes so much sense. You're on opposite sides. It's literally me versus you.
Exactly, and think of the pressure that creates. If the conversation lulls for even a second, you have nowhere to look but at each other's faces.
Oh, yeah.
You can't look away without it seeming rude, so you're just stuck in this spotlight of awkwardness.
So the guide says change the geometry completely.
Yes. The goal is to get side by side, or at a 90-degree angle. And this brings us to the first actionable key chunk.
Okay.
You walk into the venue, you see the host, and before they can lead you to some quiet table in the corner, you take the lead.
You say, let's sit at the bar.
Simple, 4 words. Let's sit at the bar.
Why is that so critical? Is it just about being closer to the drinks?
Well, that might help with the nerves, but no, it works on 2 really deep levels. First, it's a leadership move. You're not hesitating or waiting for permission. You're setting the terms. That's immediately attractive.
Yeah.
But physically, sitting at the bar changes the whole dynamic. You're not staring at each other. You're both looking out at the room.
It becomes us versus the world.
Exactly. It's a cooperative stance. You're teammates. Plus, and this is the big one, it allows for accidental physical contact.
The oops touch.
The oops touch, yes. Knees bumping, elbows grazing. It breaks that touch barrier naturally in a very low-stakes way.
Right.
At a bar, proximity is the default. If your knee touches theirs, you don't even have to apologize. You can just let it rest there. It signals comfort.
And the guide talks about people watching, too, as a tension reliever.
A huge tension reliever. If there's a silence, you're not forced to just stare. You can point at some guy in a weird hat or the bartender. You share a perspective. It takes the pressure off.
Okay, so we've navigated the entrance. We've got the bar stools. Now the guide offers a second chunk for this phase. And I have to be honest, this one made me nervous just reading it.
I think I know which one you mean. It's the high-risk, high-reward move.
Key chunk number 2. I'm going to steal this.
Yes. So the context here is you reach over, take a sip of their drink, or you grab a fry from their plate. I'm going to steal this.
See, I feel like there's a very fine line between playful and just rude. If I barely know you and you stick your hand in my food 5 minutes in, I might just ask for the check. I have food boundaries.
That is a very valid concern, yeah. And the source actually puts a giant warning label on this one. It says, only do this if the vibe is already good.
You have to read the room.
You have to read the room. You don't do this 2 minutes in.
So assuming the vibe is good, why take the risk? What's the payoff?
It accelerates intimacy. I mean, think about the barriers we put up with strangers. There's a physical barrier, our personal space bubble, and there's a polite barrier, social etiquette. By stealing a fry, you break both at the same time. You invade their space and you violate a social norm.
You're acting familiar before you actually are.
Exactly. You're signaling, I'm comfortable enough with you to be a little bit naughty. It's what a partner does. By acting as if you were already in that role, you kind of push the interaction towards it.
It's a pattern interrupt.
And it's a test. If they laugh and let you do it, great. You've just gotten confirmation that they're open to your presence in their space. It's a very efficient litmus test for chemistry.
I can see that. Okay. It's bold. So we've set the stage. We're at the bar. Now we move into phase 2. The deep dive. This is the actual talking.
And this is where the guide circles back to that interview mode problem.
The default questions. Where do you live? What do you do? And my personal go-to panic question. Do you like spicy food?
Oh, we all have one. We crave data because data feels safe. You ask a fact-based question, there's a correct answer. It's low risk. But the source is brutal here. It says, safe does not lead to a second date.
Ouch.
You're not there to exchange resumes. You're there to trigger emotion.
So how do we stop the data exchange? How do we get off that treadmill?
The guide calls it emotional spiking. You shift from what questions, which get facts, to how and why questions, which get stories. And they give you a really specific tool for this.
This is key chunk number 3. I love this one because it's so practical. The phrase is, tell me the story behind that.
And the instruction is to point at something specific on them. A ring, a scar, a tattoo, a weird necklace. Tell me the story behind that ring.
Why is that better than, say, what are your hobbies?
Because tell me about yourself is just... it's overwhelming. It's too broad.
Right.
But objects are intentional. People don't wear a specific ring every day by accident. A scar always has a story. By asking about the object, you are asking for the story, not the spec sheet.
It gives them permission, doesn't it?
That's the key word, permission. If I just met you and asked, tell me about a time you were hurt, that's intrusive. Super weird.
But if I asked, how'd you get that scar in your elbow? It's just natural curiosity. It gives you permission to open up without feeling like you're oversharing. And the source makes a great point, that this is infinitely better than discussing job duties.
Because job duties are usually boring. I mean, unless you're a spy or a lion tamer, no one wants to talk about spreadsheets on a first date.
It kills the mood.
Yeah. You want to know who they are, not how they pay their rent.
Okay, so let's say they take the bait. They start telling you the story. They get into it. The guide says, this is the critical moment to use key chunk number 4.
Yes. This is the validation chunk. This is where you seal the connection.
The phrase is, you really light up when you talk about it.
This is psychological gold. It seems so simple, but it hits so hard.
Walk me through it. Why does this work so well?
Most people go through life feeling unseen. We talk, people nod, they say, but are they really listening? Or just waiting for their turn to speak. When you interrupt someone gently to say, hey, you really light up when you talk about your dog or your stamp collection or whatever it is, You are telling them, I am observing you. I see your energy, not just your words.
It validates their passion. It makes them feel safe to be excited.
Exactly. Even if you couldn't care less about stamps, you're validating their excitement about stamps. And that feels incredible. It releases dopamine. They associate that good feeling with being around you.
You become the person who gets them.
And that is often the most seductive thing you can do. Make the other person feel fascinating. If they feel fascinating around you, they'll want to be around you more.
So we've moved from the interview to real stories. We're validating their energy. Things are going well. But now, phase 3, the scary part, the vacuum, the panic point.
We've all been there. The story ends, you both sip your drink, the laughter dies down, and there's silence.
And your brain just screams, say something, say anything, emergency.
Do you like bread? Do you like clouds? You fill the void with garbage just to stop the anxiety. But the guide says, stop, this is phase 3, creating tension.
It frames silence not as a failure, but as a tool, which is a huge mindset shift.
It calls for intentional silence. The advice is to hold eye contact for about 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable.
3 seconds is an eternity in social time. If you actually count that out while staring at someone, that is intense.
It feels like a lifetime. But that discomfort, that is the friction that creates the spark. If you just chatter over it, you release all the tension. If you hold it, you build anticipation.
And once you've held that silence, and they're looking at you, wondering what's happening, you drop key chunk number 5. And honestly, this feels like a line from a movie.
It does. You look them in the eyes and you say, you are not what I expected.
You are not what I expected.
And this is crucial. You shut up. You do not explain it.
Oh, that is mean and brilliant.
It's what the guide calls a loop of curiosity. The human brain hates unresolved questions. It can't handle them.
It has to know.
It has to know. Your date immediately stops thinking about anything else. Their only thought is, what did you expect? And is this a good thing or a bad thing?
It creates instant, 100% focus on you.
And notice the ambiguity. You're not just saying, you're prettier than I expected. That's just flattery.
Okay.
You're creating a mystery. And that mystery is the electric tension the guide promises.
So you've got them hooked. The tension is high. They're leaning in.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the closer. Key chunk number 6.
This is the move that shifts things from social to intimate.
Come closer, I can't hear you.
It sounds so practical. Maybe the bar really is loud.
Exactly, it's a plausible alibi.
But the source makes a distinction that I think is the most important takeaway of the whole document. It notes this is a command, not a request.
You're not asking, could you please lean in?
No. You are telling them to close the distance. You are taking leadership of the physical space.
And what does that do to the dreaded friend zone?
It obliterates it. I mean, think about it. Friends sit back and shout over the music. They keep their distance.
Right.
Intimate partners lean in. They share a private acoustic space. By issuing this command, you are forcing the geometry of the date into that intimate sphere. You are bringing their face into your personal space.
And it doesn't feel creepy because you gave a logical reason.
Exactly. It feels necessary. But the result is you're now whispering to each other, faces inches apart. You've successfully engineered an intimate moment out of thin air.
It's amazing how structured this is. It's about being intentional.
That's the word. Most people just sleepwalk through dates. They let the environment control them. This guide is about you controlling the environment.
It reminds me of the summary the guide gives. The ideal vibe is cozy and intimate, like sitting in a booth with red wine.
Right. But the core philosophy isn't the wine. It's that distinction we talked about. Data versus energy.
The date is not about exchanging data. It is about exchanging energy.
That is the fundamental truth. You can get data from a LinkedIn profile. You can't feel data. You can only feel energy.
And all these chunks we talked about, they're all designed to spark energy, not just transfer information.
Exactly. If you walk away from a date knowing their mother's maiden name but you didn't feel anything, that's a failed date. But if you walk away knowing nothing except we have a crazy story about a scar and you felt that spark, that's a success.
The guide also has one last piece of advice for when you panic. Because, let's be real, you might freeze up.
It says, if you run out of things to say, don't panic. Look, smile, and let the silence sit. That is where the magic happens.
It's so counterintuitive. We think we have to perform to be interesting. But being comfortable doing nothing is the ultimate power move.
It communicates massive confidence. Only confident people are comfortable in silence. Nervous people babble.
Yeah.
If you can just sit there, smile, and be present, you become magnetic. You aren't seeking approval.
It really changes the metric for success. You don't have to be the funniest person or the best looking. You just have to be observant and intentional.
It shifts the focus from how do I look to what is happening between us right now.
Which, ironically, makes you seem much more attractive.
Precisely. Become the most interesting person because you're the most present person.
So I want to leave you with one thought that really stuck with me from this guide. It's that distinction we just talked about. The difference between a request and a command. Come closer.
It's a powerful nuance.
It is,
Yeah.
and it makes you wonder, how many times do we ask for permission on a date when we should really be offering an invitation? There's a huge difference between asking, "Can I hold your hand?" Which puts all the pressure on them, and just creating a space where holding hands is the only natural thing to do.
That's the difference between passivity and leadership. And attraction always follows leadership.
Something to mull over before your next night out. Don't interview, explore. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.